Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Davidson Fellows information session, and thanks for joining us. We will get started with the event right at 3 p.m. Pacific time. In the meantime, if you have any technical questions, please utilize the Q&A function and we'll answer those privately. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Mingo, and I am part of the Davidson Institute team, and I'm going to be your host for today. We are excited to be here with you this afternoon. And so before we dive into this Fellows information session, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping points so you have an idea of what to expect in this session. Now, this session is intended to run until 4 p.m. Pacific time. The session will include a presentation and will be followed by a Q&A session, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can in the time allotted. We would like to point out that this is in a Zoom webinar setting, and it's designed so staff can share their video, audio, and screen, but attendees are in view-only mode. And please note the chat feature of Zoom has been disabled. We do ask that if you have any questions, please direct those to the Q&A feature. This can also include any technical issues in which we'll respond to you individually. And we will answer the questions in the order they appear on our list. Now, please stay through to the end of the session. You will then be directed to our post-event survey to help us gather feedback on your experience. And a recording of this live webinar will be available on our website, davidsongifted.org. Now, before we get started, we wanted to gauge who we have in our audience. And so we've just launched a poll, and we ask that you please take the next few seconds to indicate what best describes you. So please share if you are a student or a parent, an educator, or if neither of those descriptions describe you, you can select other. So I'll give about 5 more seconds for our attendees to answer, and we'll go ahead and end the poll. All right, so it looks like we have, it's almost 50-50, so just a few more parents and students, which is really wonderful to see. Thank you everyone for participating in that. And so now diving right into our session, I'm really pleased to introduce you to Tacey Mosner. She's our Davidson Fellows Scholarship Program Director. So Tacey, I'm passing this off to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. So yes, thank you, Jessica. And thank you everybody for coming. I'm glad that we have a good mix of parents and students. That's helpful for everybody to hear this presentation. And I know that probably a lot of the students have winter break is probably right around the corner. So that's great. That is a nice relaxing time. But maybe take a few hours over winter break to think about applying for scholarships, the Davidson Fellows Scholarship. It's just, these applications take a while. So during winter break is a good time to tackle a few of them. So, all right. So a few of the things that we are going to go over this afternoon are the eligibility and categories, category requirements, project criteria, the application process, and a few tips to be a successful candidate. Okay, so what is the Davidson Fellow Scholarship? This is pretty straightforward. It's a standard college scholarship, and it can be used for tuition, any related expenses, for in a degree seeking program at any accredited college or university. And the only thing it doesn't cover is if you are perhaps traveling for a class. Some student, like say you have like a summer program in the Galapagos Islands, and it wouldn't cover that travel. But if that class that you are traveling for is part of your degree, then those credits would be covered. So the scholarship amounts are $10,000, $25,000, and $50,000. And students have 10 years to use that scholarship money. So there's no minimum age to apply for this scholarship. So if you're younger in high school or even middle school and you win, that's great. The money would be waiting for you when you get out of school, graduate from high school. Or maybe you have some other scholarships that you need to use depending on your financial aid package or whatever sort of rules the college or university that you are going to has. The fellow scholarship is meant to be flexible and so that you can use it maybe even for grad school. So it's available. All right, who is eligible? It's really broad. Pretty much anyone is eligible as long as you are 18 or younger as of the application deadline of February 9th, 2022. If you are 18 and you turn 19 on February 10th, you are eligible. But if you turn 19 on February 9th, I'm afraid that you are not. So the age eligibility, there's no wiggle room there. And again, as I said, there's no minimum age for eligibility. So if you're younger and you have a great project, apply for scholarships. You might as well, and it's good practice, and you can learn from the process. And if you win, that's even better. And then lastly, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident residing in the US. If for whatever reason you are deployed for the military or maybe the State Department and you're not residing in the US, for government deployment, that's okay. Okay, what are the application categories? Several. The STEM categories: science, technology, engineering, and math. And the humanities: literature, music, philosophy. And then lastly, outside the box. And outside the box covers projects that don't really fit in the other categories. maybe an example, we get like economics projects, history. A few years ago, a student created a game teaching chemistry. And so those are outside the box projects that just don't really fit in any of the application categories. One thing to remember with this is you can apply in one category only. All right, so now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. The category requirements. All right, so for the STEM categories, you would need to submit a formal research paper, a visual model, code, if your project uses code, and any supplemental information or documentation. So the formal research paper is pretty self-explanatory. The visual model, that is the visual representation of your work. So if it's photos or a PowerPoint or graphs or pie charts, whatever it is, this is something that is a good thing to discuss with your nominators. Your nominators know your project really well, so they can help you decide what the best visual representation of your project should be. And then with code, if your project uses code, then we would like to see it. And but we want you to highlight the code that you created versus the code that you acquired. So we are mostly interested in the code that you created for your project. And then the supplemental information or documentation, a lot of students will submit their resumes, and a lot of students will submit their ideas for their future work, any sort of plans on how they are going to expand their projects, what else they have in mind. So that can be the supplemental information that you upload. And then, all right, so humanities and outside the box, these are more portfolio based. And and you want your portfolio to demonstrate your breadth and depth of understanding. In literature, that would be a 60 to 75 page portfolio, and you would include several different genres. In music, you would submit an audition format video of yourself playing several different pieces from different eras, different genres of music. For outside the box, you can have a portfolio, or perhaps it's a formal research paper. And if you aren't quite sure what you should submit, that is a great question for your nominators, or I'm happy to work through that with you as well. So you are welcome to contact me with any questions that you have about how to kind of collate your work and present it. So now, all of this is just broad strokes. So if you are interested in the details, please go to the How to Apply page. There's tons of information there, as you might expect. And if you scroll a little ways down, there are the category requirement checklist PDFs. And so you can open up whichever category you're applying in, and then you will have all kinds of details as far as the requirements and what you need to submit. Now, these applications, the categories are pretty broad, but there are some limitations. In the STEM categories, we don't want any projects with human subjects or live vertebrates or most live invertebrates. Those are not eligible for consideration. Like in music, we do not accept vocalists. In outside the box, we don't accept projects that are community service or art or photography or things like that. But anything else is pretty much open. And again, you can refer to those checklists as far as what exactly you can submit and just lots of details. All right, so the category requirements continued. These are the attachments. Everybody has to submit these same attachments regardless of your category. So attachment 1 is the process essay, attachment 2, significance essay, and attachment 3, the YouTube video. The process essay. We are interested in how you got from the beginning to the end of your project. We want to know, how did you get the idea? Did your principal investigator give you the idea and then you ran with it? Were you taking a shower and you had some great idea and you just did all your research out in your garage? We want to know about that. Last year, if you look at our website, there was a girl who turned her bathroom into a lab, and she did neuroscience research on fruit flies in her bathroom. We want to know if that's what you're doing. That's great. The judges love to know this background information. It is very helpful. The significance essay. This is your cheerleader essay. We want to know why you think your project is significant. We want to know why you think it has the potential to benefit society, why you think it has social relevance, and why you care deeply about it. You know, this is a rigorous application and you put in a lot of hours in these projects. So tell us about that. Tell us why you feel so deeply to pursue something like this. And attachment 3, the YouTube video. This is the conclusion of your application package. It helps the judges see a face to the project, and it's just a way to highlight any sort of information that you want to kind of reiterate as in your application package. You can be as creative as you want, or you can look straight into the camera, or you can have animation. It's up to you. It's very, very flexible. 10 minutes max. And again, with all of these attachments, in the requirement checklist, there are prompts. So if you're kind of stuck, or if you just need a little bit more, some ideas, those prompts in the checklist will give you some structure to your essays and video. And then the project criteria. Just broadly, we're looking for projects that have the potential to benefit society, that are socially relevant, that they can be built upon, or that you found an idea and then you built upon it. So as you can see from this list, we're just looking for exceptional things and big ideas, prodigious performances, things that haven't been seen before. So we're just looking for that level of work, college graduate level approximately. And also go to the Davidson Fellows website and you can see past winners. You can see a description of their past projects. And so you can get an idea of the level of work that's awarded. That's pretty helpful for students. All right, and then the judges. So everybody wants to know, well, what are the judges looking for? Well, a complete application. You want to make sure that your application is complete, that you're not missing any files, and that everything's labeled and that you have uploaded everything to the proper spot. You want to make sure that your process essay isn't where your formal research paper should be, or that your literature portfolio isn't where the YouTube video should be. So just make sure that everything is labeled and you double check to make sure that everything has been uploaded to the proper spots in the application. It should walk you through, but if you have any questions, please contact me so that I can help you. The attachment 3 video, with that, just make sure that the link is still good when you upload it, and also make sure it's not private. some students forget and they make their application or their YouTube video private, and then no one can see it. So, and there are directions again in that checklist on how to create your YouTube video and to make it unlisted. But just make sure that link is good. If it for some reason breaks, the judges always let me know, and then I will reach out to the applicant and ask for a new link, which I will then forward back to the judges. So it's not make or break, but you just want to make sure that your application is as neat and tidy as it can be when you submit it. And then the criteria, you'll see that it's the point system initially with quality and scope, level of significance, and depth of knowledge. So the judges will assign a numerical score, and then they also have long form answers that we review when we are looking at all of the evaluations from the judges. So and judging will work that once the application deadline passes, then all the applications will go to judging, and then it's done in ascending rounds. So a big group will be eliminated in that first round, and then it will go up from there. So kind of the cream will gradually rise to the top. And then lastly, who are these judges? They are professors, they are experts in the field, they're PhD people, excuse me, experts with specific expertise matched to the project. So with 8 application categories, and then there are almost unlimited subcategories in there, the physics judge isn't going to read a chemistry paper, and the chemistry judge isn't going to review a music portfolio, and the music judge won't review a literature portfolio. So the expertise of the judge is matched to the topic of the project. Okay, this is a big one. And I think that some students don't really think about this quite enough. Who should serve as a nominator? You want, for this scholarship program, you want nominators who are very familiar with your project, because the nominating form is only concerned with what your project is about. We don't ask questions about your grades or your community service or how cool you are, just want to know about your project. So you want to pick people who can answer those questions. And this is important. They need to be people you trust who follow through and complete the form by the deadline. It is really awful when I have to disqualify students because they have held up their end of the bargain and they have submitted all their work. They've worked really hard. Their applications are complete, except maybe they're missing one nominating form. And then I have to disqualify them because the nominator flaked, and that is no fun for the student. So you want to make sure that you are choosing reliable people. Additionally, you can monitor what your nominators are doing in the application. There is a field that you can click on nominator, and you can see that the email has been sent to them, if they have opened the email, if they've activated their account, and if their form is in progress. So you can nudge them and you can resend forms, and you can just keep an eye on what's going on to make sure that they make the deadline. And then once they do make the deadline and have submitted their forms, you will get a confirmation of receipt email, as will they, so that everybody is aware that the form has been submitted and everybody's off the hook. So that's helpful. And you can also kind of keep track of that it'll show up in the application system as well when they've submitted their forms. And then if you start to sense that a nominator might flake on you, you can replace them. you can email me and I can help you with that, or you can do it yourself within the system. And you can also just keep resending the form to them. Sometimes it helps to have that email come back up to the top of the inbox. On the how to apply page, there's a sample of the nominating form, so you can read all of the questions that your potential nominators will have to answer. And then you can think, well, who is going to be the best person to answer, or best people to answer these questions? So read that and make sure that you're choosing people who are going to best represent you to the judging panel. And then lastly, family members cannot be nominators. That's a longstanding rule. And just because family members can't be impartial and their reviews or their nominations are fairly unhelpful to the judging panel. All right, so the application process. It's kind of hard to tell from the checklist and the how to apply page how everything works, but you will read the how to apply page, and then you'll read your category requirements, and then lower down on that how to apply page is the link to create your account. So you'll create your account, and then you will fill out the initial portion of your application, which will include your demographic material or information, and your project title, your project description, and your nominator information. And then you will submit that. And that's the first time I will see your application. And so then I will look everything over, and chances are I will approve your application, and then you will be able to submit the rest of your category requirements. Sometimes I have questions, and so I will correspond with you. And if I have questions or concerns, or if I just need some more information, I'll email you and ask you. And then once everything's cleared up, I will approve your application, and then you will be able to move forward and submit all of your requirements. Once you have submitted all of your requirements, then the application system will trigger an email to your one or both of your parents. We only need one parent form, and the parent approval form is just an acknowledgement that the parents are aware that their student has applied for this scholarship. It's just filling in the signature line. And also both nominators need to have their forms submitted by the deadline. So everything has to be sent in by the deadline. Which is February 9th, in case you forgot. Okay, so timing and what to expect. So back to that hold for review. It sometimes, as we get closer to the deadline, will take a little bit longer, because as people start to apply in mass, but it can take 1 to 2 business days. I try really hard to make sure that it doesn't take very long. I try 1 business day. But just keep that in mind, that sometimes it can take 2. And so your application is approved, and then here comes the deadline. So post deadline, the judging process begins, and that runs through the end of June. There are lots of applications, so it takes the judges a little while. And then notification of all applicants, whether you win or not, is in late June, early July. Last year, there were about 650 applications, and this program has been growing a lot. So I would expect something along those lines this year as well, or maybe even more. Every year, 20 winners are chosen, and along with 20 honorable mentions. So if you are an honorable mention, or you didn't win anything at all, we welcome you to apply again. As long as you are still age eligible for the next scholarship cycle, and you are continuing to work on your project, or maybe you start a new project, you should apply again, and apply for all kinds of different scholarships. There's just millions of dollars out there in scholarships. And so just use your projects that you've worked so hard on to apply for as many scholarships as you can. So this is great. New for 22, teams of 2. This is the first year that we are offering team eligibility. It's always been individuals up to now. So it's really exciting, and we hope that we get a lot of teams applying. So yes, 2-person teams, no more, just 2. And this is important. Once a team, always a team. So what do we mean by that? We mean that if your project starts out as a team, then both of you have to be in agreement that you are both going to follow through and submit the application, because if one person drops out, then that means the other person has to drop out, because the one person cannot then take credit for the other teammate's work. That's grounds for disqualification. So make sure you're both on board with the rigor of the application and all that it includes. Both team members must meet eligibility requirements. Again, the age 18 or younger as of the application deadline, and be a US citizen or permanent resident living in the US. And scholarship money will be split evenly between the 2 team members. We don't care if one team member does 90% of the work and the other team member does 10% of the work. The scholarship is going to be split 50-50. It's up to the team members to determine the split, who does what. But as far as the award goes, it's just split 50-50. Nominators. It's 2 nominators per project. So individual applicants, it is 2 nominators. Teams, it's 2 nominators. So it's 2 nominators per project, not 2 nominators per person. And there's no advantage to applying as a team or an individual. Either way, the project will be reviewed the same way. And then, because teams are new and we're taking on new questions all the time, keep your eye on the frequently asked questions page, because if I start to get a lot of questions relating to some topic, or you're wondering something, you probably aren't the only ones. So check out the frequently asked questions page, or call me and email me, because we're all working through this. So your questions will only make it better. So what makes a successful candidate? Well, reading. So get some coffee, sit down, read the application, read the category requirements, read the how to apply an FAQ page. Just read them. A lot of things that you might be wondering about could probably be answered in those spots. Again, choose reliable nominators. That I cannot emphasize that enough. Another thing I can't emphasize enough is proofreading your work. Some judges are real sticklers on the grammar, spelling, punctuation. They really, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity because your work is sloppy, but your project's great, your work's sloppy, and then the judges they don't award you, which happens. And then just double check all your files that you've uploaded them to the proper spots. Check your email. If I have questions, I'm going to email you. The application system is going to send a bunch of automated emails so that you can keep track of where you are in the application. So check your email. Especially, even after the application deadline, if there's a problem with some of your files and I'm emailing you, you want to be able to respond to me, because the judges are actively reviewing your work. Don't self-plagiarize. If you have written a manuscript and it is being published, that is awesome. Congratulations, that's huge. But make sure the judging panel knows that you are using the same work that you used to be published, and you're using it for the Fellows Scholarship application. You can notate it on the title page, bibliography. Just make sure the judges know that you are using the same work. And then, of course, this. and I'm sure all the parents are going to nod, don't leave everything to the last minute. I know it's winter break. Get a little done. Just get a little done over winter break and then go relax. But don't wait to the last minute. This is a rigorous application, and you don't want to regret waiting until the last minute to get everything done. But do contact me. Contact me with questions. That's what I'm here for. That's what my job is. My job is to help students, parents, nominators, everybody get through the application system successfully. So that is what I'm here for. And I want to hear your questions, because your questions make the program better and make the how to apply page better and the FAQ page better. And so it's great to hear from you. And here's my contact information. All right, so these are my 2 email addresses and my phone number. You can take a picture of this, or it's all over the website, on the Davidson Fellows website. But please do contact me, because I am happy to help, and I really enjoy interacting with students. And this is it. Thank you so much for coming and listening to this presentation. Again, the deadline is February 9th, noon Pacific time. Remember, Pacific time. So if you're Eastern time, we're on the West Coast. So noon Pacific time, February 9th. And I'm gonna go back to my contact information so you can look at that. And we will open this up for if anybody has any questions.
Thank you so much, Tacey, for sharing all this information about the Fellow Scholarship. And so yes, this is the time for questions. If you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A section below. And so we'll do what we can to answer as many questions as we can in the time that we have left. So Tacey, my first question for you, and it's more of a clarification, is the nominator same as a recommender?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll probably see nominator, recommender, they're used interchangeably on the Fellows site, in the application. So yeah, same thing.
Wonderful. So we had a question come in. Can a research paper be a research report?
Yeah. It's the same thing, as long as you cover all of what should be covered in a research paper or report, that you've got your hypothesis through to testing, results, future work, the whole package.
All right, so someone asked, would one idea origin, or is the idea origin, does it have preference over others? Like it was originated by a professor, or if it was versus the student's own idea? Is there any preference basically of where the idea came from?
No, not really. If you came up with the idea yourself and you did all the work at home, and all the way through to results that really are meaningful, and versus someone who the principal investigator said, okay, well, this is what we're working on in our lab, and why don't you take this area of it and see what you can do. Either way is fine. So really what you want to strive for is the social relevance, the benefit to society. So that's more important than the idea origin.
So next question, can a student submit a multi-year, multi-part research project with a single theme?
Yeah, that's fine. It's probably in science. So if you can sort of condense all of some of the prior work, because as you're building, you're probably getting bigger results, more meaningful results. So then you can really expand on the closest in time to the deadline work that you've been doing. So prior work, maybe if you can just sort of summarize and then get really into the nitty-gritty on the most up-to-date work. But then you can talk about this in your process essay. You can say, I've been working on this since 1985, and I just love this topic. And so you can do that in the process essay.
Great. Now I have a question regarding submitting code along with a STEM project. Would mathematical simulations count as code?
I don't know. Mathematical simulations, maybe this is something that you could email me about. Maybe I'm an English major, so code is not my forte, but it's the judge's forte. So if you could email me an example of the mathematical simulation and I can look at it. To me, code is how you get the computer to do what you want it to do. So if you could explain to me how the mathematical simulation works versus code, that would be great. So you can just email me my email addresses and I'll look at that individually.
Great. Now, another question, can we upload the video to another sharing platform such as Dropbox so long as we share the link with you?
Yes. Yeah. Whatever platform you want to use is fine. I just kept YouTube in there because it seems like that's the most familiar. But as long as the judges can open the link, we don't care where you upload it.
Great. Is the scoring and judging criteria adjusted based on the age of the student, or are all applications equally reviewed regardless of the age?
Equally reviewed, regardless of age. I can't even guarantee that the judges look at the age of the student. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think the judges, they're most aware of the fact that it's someone who's 18 or younger. I don't know that how much they pay attention to, oh, it's a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old versus an 18-year-old. So everything's reviewed the same, as with teams as well.
Wonderful. Now, will the credentials of nominators have an impact on the decision?
No. The judges just want to know the nominator's role in the project, why the nominator thinks the project is significant. So sometimes I don't, that doesn't really matter. This is all reviews are based on the strength of the project, not any sort of credential of the nominator.
I feel like that answers our next question. We have someone who said they worked on their project with an undergrad student, and then they want to use that person as a nominator as well as one of their teachers who helped them write. So sounds like what you just shared supports that.
Yeah.
That answer
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. You really, what's important is that the nominators can respond to the questions on the form better than anyone else. But so if you're using an undergrad and who can really answer those questions because they have been sitting next to you week after week versus you're going to go with the PI just because they're a PhD and just sort of glosses everything over, you want the undergrad to fill out the form.
Great. We still have a few more questions about nominators, so I'll just give you preface that the next few questions will be related to that. So someone was curious about whether a parent could be a nominator, and if you could also go over how many nominators an individual needs for the application.
2 nominators are required and no family members. No family members at all. If an application goes to judging and the nominator is a family member, they'll be disqualified. So family members can't be impartial nominators. So nominators, when they fill out the form through the online system, it goes straight to Davidson Fellows staff. The applicant doesn't see the responses. So we encourage nominators to be candid. But parents can't be candid about their students. So no family members, no extended family members, nothing at all to do with the family.
And someone was curious about how to resend the form to the nominator again.
So when you log in, and you'll see a menu on the left side of the screen, and one of the links is Nominators. So you'll click on that, and then you'll be presented with the screen that has the Nominators, and you can resend the link. I think there's a trash can there so that you can delete that Nominator and add a new one. But yeah, you can, and so in that little field, that's where it'll say email sent, account activated, in progress, or completed, I believe. So that's how you can get in. And if you need help with that, because this application system isn't super intuitive, I can help you with that.
Great. Now, someone asked if they already submitted their title and abstract for their project in the initial portion. Can the title and abstract be changed later on?
Yes, yeah, that's fine, as long as the gist of the project remains the same. But you want to update the title a little bit, and maybe change the project description to be a little bit more accurate if you've made some more results, or something unexpected happened. Yeah, that's totally fine. Just email me and I will open that portion of the application up to you so that you can update it, or you can just send it to me and I can do that on the back end. So either way, yes, you can do that.
Great. Now we have someone who's only worked with one mentor at this point in their project. They're curious about who they could possibly use as their second nominator.
This is a great question, and it's something that comes up a lot. A lot of students do only work with one nominator, don't work with anyone. So what you should do is you need to acquaint a teacher, or usually students go to a teacher. Acquaint this teacher with your project and read the nominating form, and acquaint this person with that nominating form in mind. Like, why is my project important? What are the strengths and weaknesses? And so talk to this person, show them, sell them on your project, and get them as acquainted with your project as you can get, so that they can submit a nominating form. And then in the process essay, you can discuss that you only worked with one person, and that you pretty much have this second nominator because it's a requirement of the scholarship, but that you taught them about your project. And so now they have submitted their nominating form, but it may not have the details of the mentor's nominating form.
Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure that'll be really helpful for those students. All right, so we have, it's almost like a couple timing things. Are there any restrictions for when the project was completed? So this particular person had done theirs in summer 2020, but they weren't able to apply last year. So they wanted to know if they could use that project. And there was another similar question of, can I submit my project that I used last year for ISEF?
Yes, you can do that. And especially right now with COVID, it kind of has upended a lot of things, a lot of research, a lot of performances. So yes, you can use last summer, well, I guess 2020 summer's project, and you can submit that. You can use your ISEF projects. That's totally fine. ISEF level work is the level of work that we are looking for. ISEF or STS, yeah, that's what we're looking for. So yeah, use those projects.
Great. So someone was asking about who the youngest scholarship recipient winner has been, if you by chance know.
I do. So back in 2005, I believe, or 2006, there was a 5-year-old musician, Mark Yu. He played the piano, and he was amazing. He was amazing on the piano. He was tiny and he just rocked it. He won $10,000. So yeah, and then he went on, and I think he went to college, but yeah, that was a while ago, but yeah, he was 5.
Right. So we have another question. Can a published manuscript be submitted as the research project or research report?
Yes. So this goes into the self-plagiarism. Yes, you can submit something that has been published, but make sure that the judging panel knows that you are reusing this work. So you need to you need to make sure that it's notated maybe on the title page in the bibliography. In your process essay, you want to make sure that the judging panel understands that you are reusing this work and that you were published, which is great. And congratulations, that is wonderful. But just make sure that the judging panel is aware.
Great. So next question around how many words should the STEM research paper be?
Oh, it's up to you. We don't really have any sort of requirement, but do keep in mind that these judges are reviewing a lot of applications. So it doesn't necessarily, if you have an extra long paper that isn't really going to necessarily mean anything, if you need all of those pages and words, then you need them, and that's fine. If you're kind of padding the paper with a bunch of stuff just to make it a little bit longer, don't do that. So just take as much space, words, pages as you need, but no more.
Great. So there's another nominator question. Can the nominator be someone who is not your mentor, but they are an expert in the field?
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. Again, just, if you have a relationship with this person and they're an expert in the field and they can answer those questions on the form, great. That's great. Yeah.
Okay. And I know this is sort of related if that nominator would need to be a supervisor of the project. So being, aside from what you mentioned before, for those kids who need to loop someone in.
Yeah, with the requirement of 2 nominators, sometimes students haven't worked with 2 people. So yeah, just looping someone in. And if the day that you go to them and say, this is my project, let's talk about it. If that's the first time they're presented with it, then, and they agree to be your nominator and will fulfill their obligations to get their form in on time, that's totally fine. In your process essay though, talk about how you worked with your nominators. Talk about the fact that I really only worked with one person. And so therefore there's one nominating form that really knows more about this than the other. And that's fine. The Davidson Fellows judges are super used to seeing that. They are used to seeing projects that the student worked all by themselves the entire time, or they worked in a lab and they were surrounded by people who could serve as nominators. They're used to seeing everything.
Right. And I think that answers one of the questions I saw later on the list, that judges can see the nominating forms.
Yes.
Too, correct?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, can you share a little bit more information about the requirement for the philosophy category? Have there been any past winners from this category?
Yes, philosophy is hard. That's a hard category. It could be the hardest. So it's a portfolio as well, 3 to 5 pieces on philosophic thought. So if you're expanding on established philosophic thought, great. Or if you are creating something new, you can do that too. So it's 3 to 5 essays. And and then in the requirement checklist, you can have a little bit more detail, but that's about it. A portfolio that is examining various schools of thought.
Now someone asked if it's okay if it's paper that, oh, I guess we've already answered this. Yeah, if a paper's been published or submitted to other places, to make sure that that's answered. Okay, and if work, maybe we can, it's still regarding the publishing. If work is recently published somewhere else and is extended for this submission, should I identify parts published and unpublished?
Yeah, do that. Yes, you can. I mean, you don't have to have it down to the exact sentence, but Yes, you can be maybe a little bit broader and say that portions of the paper have been published, and or you can list the sections that have been published. But yes, you want to be as explicit as you can if you are using portions or in totality work that has been published. You want the judging panel to know that you are reusing your work.
Now, someone had a question of what is the role of the nominator?
The role of the nominator for the judges and for Davidson Fellows staff, it is a candid picture of the applicant, of the project, and the role the applicant played in the project, the role the nominator played in the project. So because the nominating forms come straight to us and the applicant doesn't read them, doesn't have access to them, the nominators can be candid and can say, well, this was my idea and the student was great and ran with it, or I don't really know anything about this project. They just showed it to me a week ago and now I'm filling out this form. So the nominators give judges and fellows staff background that fills out the whole picture of the project and the applicant's role in that project.
All right, we have a question about the music category. Does it center more around a collection of different performances, or is the project involving your experience in music that you want to use to impact society?
Well, the judging panel, you need to be able to play music and you need to, be really good. So it's about your being able to perform and perform different types of music. You can talk about the role that music plays in your life and the role that you would like music to play in everyone's lives in your significance essay or process essay. You can talk about it there. But that is a very subjective thing. Well, music is my life. Well, play and show the judges that music is your life. So your portfolio, your performances, that is primarily what you're going to be reviewed on. And then if you have a real strong affinity to make sure that other people can enjoy music and make it part of their lives, and you want to talk about that, you can talk about that in the essays.
All right. So another question, does the application have to be complete prior to asking a nominator?
Well, it should be, or it should be as close as can be, because the nominator has to answer the question of, is this project going to contribute to society? What are the strengths of the project? And so they can't really answer that if it's not finished. So this sort of goes into theoretical projects. It's hard for judges to assess a theoretical project because there aren't any results. So you can't assess whether there is any social relevance or potential to benefit society. So same goes for nominators. If a project isn't complete, then how can they answer those questions? So the project needs to be as complete as possible by the time the nominator starts filling out the form.
Great. So the next question is, how do you know that your project has been approved?
You'll get an email. I think you're talking about the initial portion of the application. So you'll get an email saying that your application has been approved. Log back in and you can continue on with uploading your materials. So that you'll get an email. So make sure you always check your email often.
Great. Now, someone asked if students can see what all the questions are that will be included on the nominator form in order for them to acquaint their teacher to become a nominator.
Yeah, so on the how to apply page, there's a sample of the nominating form. And so you can read that, you can print it out, you can show it to your teachers, but they will not fill out that PDF form. The nominations only come through the application system. But yes, there's the sample on the website of the exact questions that nominators have to answer.
All right, so we have another question. So if I graduate in May, but I'm underage, can I apply as a college student, or is it purely age-based?
Purely age-based. So with the Davidson Institute, we work with a lot of students who are younger and move on to college. And so eligibility for the Fellows Scholarship is based solely on age. So you can be in college and still apply. That's totally fine. The judges won't even really know that you're in college. That's a question on the application, but that's not what the judges really pay attention to. They just pay attention to the project.
All right, another question. Can a patent be used as supplemental material?
Yep, that's totally fine. That's a great place to add that in. And it's of interest to the judges, perhaps. It won't really factor into their review, but certainly doesn't hurt. That's great. That's a great thing to add as supplemental information.
Okay. All right, well, we are just about out of time. We have a couple moments. So I'm just going to pick a couple questions that are a little more unique from this pool. How much of an importance are the process and significance essays? How much is that weighed in the judging?
It's when I went through I'll pull that back up, that slide that had the judging rubric. Here it is. So the essays they again kind of fill out the picture for the judges and for fellows staff. So you can see that 100 points are available, and they're mostly concerned with the project itself. But the level of significance, you can talk about that in your significance essay. The process essay, that's really kind of nuts and bolts, but it really helps us know how this project came to be. So though perhaps the essays aren't a huge part of the scoring rubric, you want to make sure that they're written well, because that will stick in the judge's mind as far as the proofreading, spelling, grammar, all of that. So though it's not a huge part of the judging criteria, it leaves a lasting impression with the judges.
Great. All right, so our final one, it's a music related one. Can an applicant play 2 instruments? Is there a disadvantage, or are judges looking for performances using the same instrument?
Yeah, you can play 2 instruments. That's great. And the application will ask you, like if you are a classical instrumentalist, it's going to say, what instruments do you play? So you can put violin and piano or whatever. And so, yeah, you want to perhaps have the instrument that you're better at be the one that you emphasize in your portfolio. If you're better at piano, but can also are great on the violin, but you're better on piano, so weight your portfolio toward piano. And then again, you can address this in your process essay, like I'm great at both because I'm really wonderful, but I'm better at piano.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tacey, for sharing all this information about the Fellows Scholarship and addressing questions from our audience. Before we end the session, do you have any closing statements for our audience?
Um, I just want, anyone that we didn't get to, or if anybody has any follow-up questions, please contact me. And I am happy to work through any questions that you have. And yeah, get started on your applications. The deadline is not very far away, maybe about 6 or 7 weeks. So you should be getting close to completing your projects anyway. So get started. Use a little of your winter break to work through the application and contact me with any questions that you have. And thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Tacey, and thanks everyone for joining us. Please remember to do the survey at the end after the session closes. We would love your feedback. And if you want to view this session again, as a reminder, we are going to be sharing the recording. It will be posted on the Fellows website. So feel free to revisit this recording. And thanks again, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.